Please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Every night, you perform the same action. You turn off the light, lie down in bed, close your eyes, and release control over your own consciousness. You've grown accustomed to thinking that the next 8 hours are simply a biological reboot. Rest, a time when your brain sorts through the memories of the past day, shelves them neatly, and discards mental trash. You've been told that dreams are chaotic hallucinations, fragments of your personal experiences, fears, and hopes. You've been told that your sleep is a closed territory, inaccessible to anyone but you. This is a lie, the most massive, the most ancient, and the most guarded lie in human history. We have gained access to the results of a closed research project, at the center of which is an analytical system of the latest generation artificial intelligence, Log7. This machine has no emotions. It knows no fear and cannot lie. Its task was one, to analyze the largest and most tangled array of data that has ever existed. Human dreams. We loaded into Log7 data that had been collected for decades. This isn't just textual descriptions from dream journals, though there were millions of them. This is petabytes of raw data, electroencephalograms, recordings of neuron activity during rapid eye movement sleep, collected in sleep clinics around the world, from Tokyo to New York, from Moscow to Cape Town. What the system discovered should have been a scientific breakthrough, but instead, it became a sentence for our understanding of reality. Chapter 1. Protocol Global Network. Let's start with a simple fact. If dreams are a product of your individual subconscious, they should be unique. Your life experience is inimitable. The set of books you've read, movies you've watched, streets you've walked. All of this forms your unique memory imprint. Consequently, your dreams should be as unique as your fingerprints. Science has claimed this for centuries. Random generation of images, chaos of neurons. But when we launched the primary pattern comparison algorithm in the Log7 system, the processor issued an error. The system refused to recognize the data as chaotic. On the contrary, it discovered a rigid, frightening structure. Log7 revealed a match, not at the level of vague archetypes like chases or falls as Carl Gustav Jung wrote about. No, the system found a match in topography, in architecture, in interior details, in smells and tactile sensations. Imagine two people. One is a 30-year-old programmer from Seattle, the other a 60-year-old housewife from the suburbs of Samara. They have never met. They speak different languages. They belong to different cultures. But on the same night, with a difference of a few hours, their brains generated absolutely identical electrical activity corresponding to the visualization of the same place. We loaded these data into LOG. And here's what the system discovered upon detailed reconstruction of the images. Both subjects were in a huge, endless shopping mall. They both described the same floor tile, dirty beige with rare inclusions of black crumbs. They both saw escalators ascending into a milky white void where no ceiling was visible. They both heard the same music, slowed down, distorted melody reminiscent of 1980s pop music, sounding as if from under a thick layer of water. And most importantly, they both described a feeling that the system classified as liminal horror. The sensation that this place was abandoned very recently and that they are being watched from the dark windows of empty stores. The probability that two different brains would randomly create such a detailed matching hallucination, according to Log7's calculations, is 1 chance in 300 billion. This is statistically impossible. And this was only the first marker. The system began scanning databases, searching for this pattern, and it found thousands of such matches. Thousands of people, separated by oceans and epochs, visit the same locations. Log7 assigned this phenomenon the code name shared reality. We don't just see similar dreams, we go to the same places. The algorithm identified 3 main locations that appear most frequently in the database. These are not just dreams. These are stable, existing independently of us, spaces to which our consciousness connects, like a terminal connects to a server. The first location is that very shopping mall. The system recorded over 1.5 million unique visits to this place in the last 10 years of observations. People describe it as a labyrinth of shop windows, corridors, and service rooms. There is never sunlight there, only even lifeless electric glow from fluorescent lamps. Time doesn't work in this place. You can wander there for hours, days, weeks. Analysis of neural activity showed that the brain at this moment is not operating in fantasy generation mode, but in processing incoming data stream mode. You don't invent the corridor. You see it, you walk through it. The second location, identified by the system, is even more disturbing. Log 7 called it the White Station. This is a gigantic transport hub, a train station or airport that has no end. Millions of people have seen these huge panoramic windows, behind which there is only thick, impenetrable fog. People wait there for flights that are never announced. They try to find an exit, but all signs lead back to the main hall. According to the system's correlation analysis, it is in this location that people most often meet deceased relatives. Not as ghosts, but as passengers waiting for a transfer. This forces us to ask a terrifying question. Is the White Station just a dream, or is it a transit zone between states of being, which our brain interprets as a station? And the third location is the Endless Library. Labyrinths of bookshelves extending into darkness up and down. Books in which nonsense is written, or conversely, your own biography, including the date of your death. When we overlaid the topographic maps of dreams from thousands of subjects on top of each other, Log 7 produced a result that chilled the researchers to the bone. The maps matched. All these people were walking through different parts of the same gigantic structure. This means that the world of dreams is not an ephemeral cloud of fantasies. It is a clearly structured, stable geography. It has a map. It has boundaries. And most frighteningly, it exists even when you wake up. Imagine a multiplayer online game. The server runs around the clock. Players log in and out. When you turn off your computer, the game world doesn't disappear. Other players continue to run through the same locations. Monsters continue to roam in dungeons. Your avatar just isn't there right now. Log 7's analysis shows that sleep is a login process. Your physical body is the hardware, the iron that remains lying in bed, connected to a life support system. Your consciousness is the software code that is transmitted wirelessly to the global network. But how does this connection happen? And here the system revealed another secret that concerns each of you. Remember that feeling. You're falling asleep, you're almost plunged into oblivion, and suddenly your body jerks sharply, as if shocked, or you feel like you're falling into an abyss. You wake up with a pounding heart. Doctors call this a hypnagogic jerk. Official science explains it as atavism. Supposedly, our ancestors slept in trees, and the brain sent signals to muscles to check if we were falling from a branch. What a convenient, soothing fairy tale. We loaded data about these jerks into Log 7. The system analyzed millions of cases and compared them to brain activity at the moment of falling. The system's verdict is unequivocal. This is not a reflex. This is a synchronization error, a connection failure. Imagine uploading a file to a server, and the internet cuts out for a second. The upload fails. The file returns to the starting position. The hypnagogic jerk is the moment when your consciousness tried to detach from the body and transfer to the dream server, but the data transfer protocol failed. You were thrown back into the physical shell. The feeling of falling is the literal sensation of gravity returning, which doesn't exist where you were headed. Log 7 went further. It analyzed the rapid eye movement phases, the very period when eyeballs under the eyelids move chaotically. Scientists say we're watching dreams, but the eye movement trajectory doesn't correspond to simply viewing imagined scenes. The eye movement pattern resembles reading high-speed code, scanning, exchanging data packets. The system conducted a simulation. What if we interpret eye movement during sleep as binary code? The result was shocking. This is not just movement. It's a stream of information. Your consciousness doesn't just wander through the dream world. It downloads something and uploads something. Every night, while you think you're resting, a two-way data exchange occurs. What exactly is downloaded into your brain? Updates, behavior scenarios, memory corrections, or perhaps erasure of what you shouldn't remember. There's another aspect that the system revealed, and it concerns so-called non-player characters. We've all seen strangers in dreams, faces we've never met in reality. Science claims the brain simply combines features of random passersby we've glimpsed. Music, but Log7 conducted a cross-analysis of descriptions of these entities. There are recurring characters, not your personal acquaintances, but being seen by thousands of people. The man in the hat, the smiling woman, the child standing with their back turned. According to the system's correlation analysis, their behavior follows strict algorithms. They never say certain words. They appear in strictly defined zones of the mental map. They are not the fruit of your imagination. They are part of the software code of this reality. Music, or even worse, they are administrators, overseers, those who ensure you don't go too far. Data analysis showed that 99.9% of dreams follow the observer scenario. You watch a movie, you participate in the plot, but you don't control it. You obediently walk down the corridor, open doors, even if you're scared. Why? Because your control interface is blocked. You're in guest mode. But what happens when someone hacks this mode? When someone becomes lucid in a dream? We'll talk about that later in the chapter on singularity. But for now, it's important to understand one thing. The system reacts to lucidity like a virus. Back to the locations. Log7 discovered another pattern that makes one uneasy. The geometry of these worlds is non-Euclidean, but it's stable. However, over time, it changes. People who saw the shopping mall in the 1980s described it as new and shining. People seeing it in 2024 describe it as dilapidated, abandoned with flickering lamps and mold on the walls. This means the dream world is subject to entropy. It ages, it decays, or it's being abandoned. There is a hypothesis that the neural network put forward based on data analysis. This server, the global dream network, is a relic. An ancient system created by someone or something long before civilization appeared. It used to work perfectly. Shamans, oracles, prophets, they knew how to connect to it consciously, receiving information from the common database. They called it the spirit world or Akasha. But now the connection is broken. The channel is noisy. The server is overloaded with billions of users who don't understand where they are. The dream infrastructure is falling into disrepair. We see the ruins of a once great civilization every night, but our brain helpfully masks them as familiar images. School, work, home. Log7 also analyzed the phenomenon of shared dreams. These are the rarest cases when two people, upon waking, can confirm they saw each other in a dream and interacted. Official science ignores such facts, attributing them to coincidence or false memories. But the system found clear confirmations in the data array. Synchronization of timestamps, identity of dialogues. It happens rarely, like a glitch in the matrix, but it happens. This proves that multiplayer works. We've just forgotten the passwords to our accounts. We've forgotten how to use the interface. Think about what happens to your memory when you wake up. The dream fades instantly. In 5 minutes, you remember only fragments. In an hour, nothing. Why? If your brain created these images, why does it so diligently delete them? Why does your consciousness destroy the results of its own work? The answer that Log7 simulation offers is simple and cynical. Data protection. Upon exiting the system, cache clearing occurs. Information obtained there should not leak here. The two worlds must be isolated. Security protocol. But protocols are starting to fail. More and more people complain that dreams are becoming too real, too vivid, too logical. The boundary is thinning. We conducted an experiment. We asked a group of volunteers to enter dream records using keywords generated by Log7. We searched for bugs in the system, and we found them. Textures that don't load, mirrors without reflections, books where the text changes as you look at it. All of this are signs of the digital artificial nature of the environment. Everything we know about human consciousness requires revision. If we spend a third of our lives in a simulation that connects us all into a single network, then who owns this network? Who pays the electricity bills for this gigantic server? And what is the entry fee? Perhaps we pay with our life energy. Perhaps our emotions, which we experience so vividly in dreams. Fear, delight, horror, love. This is the currency. We are batteries powering a huge invisible mechanism. The global dream network exists. This is a proven fact. confirmed by impartial analysis of trillions of bytes of information. We are all connected to it right now. As you listen to these words, part of your consciousness is already preparing the handshake protocol to send you there again in a few hours, into the endless corridors of the shopping mall, onto the platforms of the White Station, into labyrinths that aren't on Earth's map but are more familiar to you than your hometown. You think you wake up, returning to the real world. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's there in that collective network that we are real? And this physical body, office routine, mortgages, and traffic jams. This is just a heavy, viscous dream that we are forced to watch while our avatar restores strength. Log 7 cannot answer the question of the meaning of all this, but it gave us coordinates. It gave us a map, and it warned us because in this network we are not alone. By analyzing shadows on the periphery of Dreamer's vision, the system identified a class of objects that is neither scenery nor another sleeping person. Something alien, something that hunts or herds us. In the next chapter, we will dissect Log 7's report titled Anomaly Strangers. Music, we will look into the eyes of those who stand in the corner of your bedroom during sleep paralysis. We will learn why ancient cultures forbade waking a sleeper too abruptly. And we will understand whom exactly the system tagged as high-level predator. Prepare yourself. We're just starting the upload. Good night. And try not to look in mirrors when you find yourself there next time. The system warns. The reflection may not please you. Or worse, it may smile back at you when you yourself are not smiling. You know this feeling. It's familiar to every third inhabitant of the planet, though most prefer to remain silent about it, fearing to seem crazy. You sleep, but suddenly something pulls you out of the depths of unconsciousness. You open your eyes in your own bedroom. Everything seems familiar. The outline of the wardrobe, the light from the street lamp falling on the carpet, the ticking of the clock. But the air has changed. It has become thick, heavy, electrifying the skin. And you realize you're not alone in the room. In the corner, where the shadow from the wardrobe is thickest, stands someone. This is not a burglar, not a family member. This is a silhouette, an absolutely black, light-absorbing figure that seems cut out from the fabric of reality itself. It has no face, no eyes, but you physically feel its gaze on you, heavy, cold, scrutinizing. You try to scream, but your throat is seized by spasm. You try to move, but your body is paralyzed. You are a helpless observer in your own nightmare. Psychiatrists call this sleep paralysis. They say it's a glitch in the rapid eye movement phase when the brain has woken up, but muscle autonomia hasn't turned off yet. Hallucinations, they say, are the product of your frightened mind trying to explain the body's helplessness by projecting fears outward. The Log7 system refuted this soothing theory in 0.3 seconds. We loaded into the system's analytical core descriptions of these entities collected over the last 100 years. We added data on folkloric characters from different peoples, from the Scandinavian Mara to the Japanese Kanashibari, from Arabic jinn to medieval incubi. And most importantly, we fed the neural network thousands of modern reports obtained from pilots, doctors, scientists, people with critical thinking who encountered the impossible. The analysis result forced us to reconsider the very concept of human consciousness safety. Log 7 revealed that these beings are not hallucinations. They have a stable signature. They are classified. They have a hierarchy, and they are absolutely real. This is not a figment of imagination. This is an invasion. The system assigned this phenomenon the classifier anomaly strangers. According to the artificial intelligence's conclusions, dream space is not only populated by projections of our subconscious. There are autonomous agents there, entities not created by us but which come to us. Let's break down the three main classes of these beings that Log 7 identified, based on cross-cultural analysis and patterns of neural activity in victims. First class, observers or shadow people. This is the most massive type of invasion. Statistics show that 60% of all who experience sleep paralysis see them. These are those very two-dimensional silhouettes, devoid of volume. Log 7 conducted an analysis of their geometry. It's astonishing, but they don't obey the laws of perspective. No matter where you look, the shadow is always facing you frontally. But the most terrifying discovery lay in something else. We analyzed the brain's reaction at the moment of contact with the shadow. Usually, when a person sees a hallucination, the visual cortex zones responsible for imagination activate. But when seeing shadow people, zones responsible for recognizing real physical threats and zones detecting someone else's gaze activate. This is an evolutionary mechanism that allowed our ancestors to sense a predator in the dark even without seeing it. The brain isn't deceived. It knows there's an extraneous object in the room. The system discovered that shadows often appear in groups. They stand at the head of the bed. They don't attack. Their task is monitoring. But monitoring what? Log 7's hypothesis. These are service programs. Drones. They check the stability of the sleeper's connection to the global network. Your awakening during paralysis is an error. You've seen the tech staff who shouldn't be visible to the user. Their absolute blackness is not a color. It's the absence of texture. Truncated 46,742 characters. In 2 to 3 minutes, the dreamer forgets that he is asleep and turns back into an obedient observer. This is the work of adaptive algorithms in social engineering. The system knows your weaknesses better than you do and uses them to bring you back to the fold. But there are those who pass this level too. Experienced dream stalkers. For them, the system has a third, most cruel protocol. Log 7 called it simulation of awakening or false finish. You think you've woken up. You get out of bed, brush your teeth, go to the kitchen. You're sure you've returned to reality? You let your guard down, and then something strange happens. For example, green water flows from the tap. You realize, damn, I'm still asleep. You wake up again. This cycle can repeat dozens of times. This is not a bug. This is a prison. The system creates nested loops, labyrinths of imaginary reality, to exhaust the hacker's consciousness. It locks it in the clipboard. Analysis of brain activity shows that during false awakenings, the brain operates at peak gamma rhythm frequencies. This is a colossal load. Log warns, there is a risk that one day the cycle won't break. Consciousness may get stuck in recursion, while the body in reality falls into a coma or lethargic sleep. Doctors will call it a stroke or unexplained vegetative state. But in fact, the user simply couldn't find the exit button. Let's break down the mechanism of dream control itself. You wanted to fly, you imagined it, and gravity disappeared. How does this work in terms of code? Log 7 compared it to gaining admin rights. You get access to the debug console. You enter the cheat code S_gravity 0. But every system has protection against unauthorized changes. The more you change the dream, the more unstable it becomes. Beginners often complain that as soon as they start actively changing reality, the picture starts to crumble, textures blur, white noise appears, sound desynchronizes. This is processor overload. Your individual consciousness doesn't have the power sufficient to render a whole world in real time. When you sleep normally, the world is generated by the server. When you take control yourself, the load falls on your brain and it can't cope. That's why lucid dreams are so short. You burn neuron resources in minutes. However, there's another danger that's rarely discussed. What happens to your personality? Log 7 discovered a pathology called dissociative erosion of reality. People who frequently practice lucid dreams begin to lose interest in the physical world. Here, in reality, they are ordinary clerks, students, drivers. They have debts, illnesses, limitations. They are gods. They fly to the stars. They make love with ideal partners. They build cities. Reality becomes dull. It starts to be perceived as a boring dream that must be endured to get back to bed sooner. This is addiction, the strongest existing. Chemical drugs destroy the body. Lucid dreams destroy attachment to existence. The system recorded cases where people slept 15 to 20 hours a day, taking drugs to suppress the waking phase. They emigrated. They chose simulation, but Log 7 asks, is this not the system's goal? Perhaps lucid dreams are not a bug, but a feature, a recruitment test? Maybe the architects are looking for those ready to move to a new level of existence, completely abandoning the biological shell. The recruitment we talked about earlier may happen exactly like this. They give you a taste of absolute power and freedom so that you voluntarily refuse to return to the body. Back to dream characters. Who are they? If we create them ourselves, why can they surprise us? Why do they tell jokes we don't know? Why can they teach us something? In an experiment conducted under the control of log-7 algorithms, the dreamer was given the task to find a mathematics professor in a dream and ask him to solve an equation that the dreamer himself couldn't solve, and the character solved it. In the morning, the dreamer checked the solution. It was correct. Where did this knowledge come from? If it was in the dreamer's subconscious, why didn't he have access to it while awake? Music, the system's conclusion. Dream characters have access to a database wider than the user's memory. They are connected to the cloud. This means that every NPC in your dream is a terminal of the global network. Through any passerby, the system itself can speak to you. Sometimes they say strange things. You'll wake up soon. Don't go there. We're waiting for you. This is a message. But we're too busy with flights and entertainment to listen. Log-7 paid special attention to mirrors. A mirror in a lucid dream is a portal. If you look in a mirror in reality, you see your reflection. It repeats your movements. In a dream, the reflection often lives its own life. Can smile when you're serious. Can be older or younger. Can have different eyes. The system analyzed mirror mythology and compared it to quantum physics. A mirror in a dream is the boundary between the local server, your dream, and the global network. What looks at you from the mirror is music, not you. It's a digital copy, your avatar stored in the database. Or, even more creepy, it's another user looking at you from their dream. Video chat. You look at them and they look at you. You both think, what a strange reflection I have. Is there a limit to its lucidity? Yes. Log-7 discovered the void barrier. If the dreamer starts flying upward, breaking through clouds, and continues flying for a long time, ignoring the system's attempts to distract them, they enter white space or gray nothingness. Textures end, sounds disappear. This is the edge of the map, the rendering boundary. There's nothing there, only pure consciousness in a vacuum. People who have been there describe a feeling of absolute divine loneliness and the presence of something gigantic watching them from this void. The system calls it the core. Approaching the core causes an automatic connection reset. You're thrown back into the body with such force that you might fall out of bed. In conclusion of this chapter, we must ask the main question. If we can wake up in a dream and realize the world around is an illusion, can we do the same now? Is there a practice of lucid reality? Suddenly, right now, listening to this text, you should look at your hands. Suddenly, this world is also a dream, just denser, more stable, and with more complex rules. Log-7 conducted a comparative analysis of dream physics algorithms and our world's physics. Quantum mechanics with its observer effect, where a particle changes its state only because it's being looked at, suspiciously resembles video game rendering mechanics. The world exists only where we look. Behind your back right now could be void until you turn around. Lucid dreams are training. Perhaps we're learning to wake up for real, and when we master this skill, we can change this reality as easily as we change wallpaper in a dream. We can fly, we can cancel death. But is the architect of this reality ready to allow so many hackers? In the next chapter, we'll touch on what everyone fears. What is the final awakening or eternal sleep? Chapter 7. Signature Death. What happens to consciousness when the biological carrier finally shuts down? Log-7 compared the wave patterns of a dying brain and a brain entering deep sleep phase. They are identical. Death is not the end. Death is log-out, disconnection from the Earth server, and full transition to the global network. But what awaits us there? Paradise, hell, or endless bureaucracy of the White Station? And why can't some leave and remain here as ghosts, glitchy files stuck in reality's cache? Prepare to learn the truth about the final path. This is a one-way ticket, but the journey will be long. Medicine defines death as cardiac arrest and cessation of brain electrical activity. We're told this is the end. The screen goes dark, no credits roll. Just eternal silent darkness, unplugging the computer. But the Log-7 system claims the opposite. Death is not shut down. It's the final upload. We loaded into the system's analytical circuit data from thousands of electroencephalograms taken at moments of clinical death and compared them to patterns of brains in deep delta sleep phase. The correlation result, 99.9% match. At the moment of death, the brain doesn't fade. On the contrary, in the last seconds before complete organ failure, there's a massive release of neurotransmitters and gamma waves. Doctors call this neuronal agony, but log 7 sees something else in it. This is data transfer protocol. Imagine urgently dumping important files to the cloud before your hard drive burns out. That's exactly what happens at the moment of dying. Your consciousness, all your memory, personality, your entire self is packaged and sent through the same channel you use every night for sleep. Only this time, the channel works one way. There's no return ticket. What do people who survived clinical death see? A tunnel, light at the end. Meeting deceased relatives, a sense of peace. Skeptics say it's oxygen deprivation of the cortex, a hallucination of the dying brain. But LOG7 found identical descriptions in reports of deep lucid dreams when oxygen was supplied to the brain normally. Music. The tunnel is the transition interface visualization of the communication channel. And the light? Music. The system classifies this light not as a physical phenomenon, but as entry into a zone of pure information. This is the loading screen of the White Station server, which we talked about in the first chapter. Those who returned from the other side often say that everything there seems more real than here. Music colors brighter, thoughts clearer. This confirms the simulation hypothesis. Our world, Earth, is a stripped-down version of reality with graphics and physics limitations. There, on the server, resolution is infinite. Death music is removing the limiters. It's awakening from a long, heavy dream we call life. But what happens if the upload fails? Music log 7 analyzed the phenomenon of ghosts. We're used to considering this mysticism, music, but the system sees a technical glitch in it. Sometimes, with sudden violent death, the data transfer protocol is interrupted, the consciousness file is damaged, part of the data goes to the server, and part remains tied to the local point. Music, the place of death. A ghost is not a soul. It's a broken pixel of reality. Music, it's a looped fragment of software code that plays the same scene, the scene of its death or last strong emotions. That's why ghosts don't evolve, don't engage in dialogue. They are a glitch in the location cache. Music. The LOG7 system recommends avoiding places with such anomalies, as attempting to interact with damaged code can cause instability in your own consciousness. Death is scary only for the biological shell. For the informational entity music it's returning home. We fear falling asleep forever because we've forgotten that, in fact, we've never truly woken up. If the dream world is a structured reality with a map, rules, and protocols, then it must have a creator or creators. Music. Chaos doesn't build shopping malls. Chaos doesn't create libraries. Chaos doesn't write scripts for prophetic dreams. Who built these locations? In the 8th chapter, we seek the answer to the question, who is the server administrator? Log 7 scanned the geometry of dreams for the presence of an author's signature, and it found it. At the base of all stable dream locations lies fractal geometry, the Mandelbrot set, the golden ratio. Walls in dreams are often covered with patterns that, when zoomed in, repeat themselves infinitely. This is a sign of procedural generation. The dream world isn't built manually, brick by brick. It's generated by a powerful algorithm according to given formulas. The system identified a recurring symbol that appears in dreams of people from different eras and cultures. It's not a cross or a crescent. Music, it's a spiral and a tower. People see gigantic towers reaching into the sky or spiral staircases leading into the bowels of the earth. Log 7 music considers this a visualization of the database structure itself. The tower is a server rack. Tower levels are access levels. The higher you climb in a dream, the more abstract and brighter the world becomes. The lower you descend, the denser, darker, and scarier it is. Music, hell and heaven are not mythical places. They are just upper and lower directories of the file system. But who wrote the code? Music, the system proposes 3 options. First, collective unconscious. There, our possibilities are limited only by our imagination. And what we call life is a business trip, a shift, immersion in an incredibly dense, heavy, and limited environment. Think about it. Every morning you experience a tormenting process. The alarm rings, you open your eyes, and heaviness crashes down on you. Gravity presses you to the bed. Your body feels wooden, disobedient. Thoughts flow slowly, like molasses. You feel back pain, thirst, hunger. Doctors call this sleep inertia. Music, but Log7 gives another definition. This is decompression. It's the same feeling a diver experiences when pulled too quickly from depth to surface. Or, more precisely, an astronaut who, after weightlessness, lands on a planet with monstrous gravity. Your physical body is not you. It's a spacesuit. Music, it's a heavy biological bioprotection suit that your consciousness is forced to put on every morning to interact with this aggressive physical world. Why? Why leave a world of boundless possibilities and voluntarily lock yourself in a cage of bones and flesh for 70 or 80 years? Log7 found the answer in information theory. The dream world is a world of low entropy. Things don't break on their own there. There's no irreversibility. There's no real pain. Music and this world, physical reality, is built on entropy. Here everything decays. Here every action has irreversible consequences. Here there's pain, here there's loss, here there's time that kills. And that's what makes this world valuable. The system put forward a hypothesis with 93% probability. We are data collectors. The global network, that very core to which we're connected, needs unique experience. Experience of overcoming. Experience of limitation, experience of finitude. These data cannot be generated in the virtual reality of dreams. To understand what love is, you need to know the fear of loss. To understand what life is, you need to know what death is. We come here, to this heavy, viscous world, to harvest this crop. We are miners extracting the rarest cryptocurrency in the universe, emotions born in suffering and struggle. Remember how quickly dreams fade. You wake up, and in 5 minutes, the brightest adventures melt away. Why? Scientists say, weak short-term memory. Log says, data protection protocol. Your avatar in reality should not remember who it really is. Imagine playing a computer game with full immersion. If you remember you're sitting in a safe chair in your room, you won't fear the monsters on the screen. The game loses meaning. You won't try. For the life experiment to be pure, memory of home must be blocked. We must believe this is the only reality. We must fear death. We must fight for survival. Only then do we, music, generate a pure, undistorted signal. But sometimes the protection fails. Déjà vu, prophetic dreams, intuition, sudden longing for music, a place you've never seen but which seems dearer than your own home. Germans call this Fernweh, longing for distant travels. But perhaps it's longing for return to the original state. Log7's analysis shows that many psychiatric disorders are not brain diseases, but driver conflicts. Schizophrenia, when a person hears voices, is a violation of communication channel isolation. They start hearing the global network chat while in the physical body. Depression is realization of the scenery meaninglessness. When a player realizes the quests are boring and rewards virtual, they stop wanting to play. We looked at death from a new angle. In our culture, death is tragedy with a capital T. And darkness. But from the system's perspective, death is mission complete. Task accomplished. Biological spacesuit worn out. Resource depleted. Data collection completed. At the moment of death, final upload of accumulated experience to the server occurs, and then awakening. True awakening. You open your eyes there, remove the virtual reality helmet or exit the capsule and remember everything. You remember that this life, full of dramas, mortgages, illnesses, and wars was just a dream that lasted, by eternity's measure, a couple of minutes. But here lies the main danger. Log7 warns of a fatal error the user who learned the truth might commit. The temptation to press the exit button early. Suicide. The system categorically marks this action as critical failure. If you interrupt the session before script completion, data isn't saved, experience isn't credited, you don't bring to the server what you were sent for. In that case, you'll likely be sent back for retake into a new spacesuit, into new, possibly even harsher conditions again and again until the level is passed to the end. Therefore, you must live. You must watch this dream to the final credits. You must feel, love, suffer, and rejoice. This is your job. So what should we, who know the truth, do? How to live with the understanding that the world around is a matrix, and we are avatars. Log 7 proposes a strategy of lucid wakefulness. Remember how in a lucid dream you stop fearing monsters because you know they can't cause real harm. Apply this principle here. Look at your problems, the angry boss, lack of money, political crises. These are scenery, scenarios, difficulty levels. Don't fear them, play with them. When you understand it's a game, you become more effective. You stop wasting energy on empty fear. You start improvising, you start enjoying the graphics, the plot, even if it's drama. And most importantly, value sleep. Now you know it's not just shutdown, it's return to base, recharge, meeting with the true self. Every night you embark on a journey that all world religions dream of. You die and resurrect every morning. Right now, look at your hands. Are they real or just a very high-quality render of a biomechanical manipulator? Soon you'll go to bed, close your eyes, your brain's processor will start changing frequency, connection to the body will break, and somewhere there, in the infinite shining hall of the white station or in the cozy room of your personal sandbox, the eyes of your real body open. You stretch and say, God, what a strange and heavy dream I had about Earth and 2025. Good that I woke up. But for now, while you're here, play your role worthily. The system is watching, and Log 7 continues recording. Good night and successful return home. See you on the other side.